Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Today, we're going to be tackling something pretty major.
Yeah.
The idea of actually living your faith,
Mm,
not just saying you believe in something.
right. Like walking the walk.
Totally, totally. And to help us kind of unpack this whole thing,
Okay.
we're going to be looking at a recent episode of the podcast, The Sun Inside.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they approach this topic from a Christian perspective.
Okay. I'm curious to see what they have to say.
Me too, me too.
Yeah.
So they jump right into this question, what even is true faith anyway?
That's a big one.
Right. Like we put faith in so many things, our jobs, our possessions,
Uh,
even like a lucky rabbit's foot.
whatever gets you through the day.
Totally. But the source is saying true faith, especially for Christians, goes way deeper.
I can see that. It's got to be more than just believing in luck.
Exactly. It's about trusting in something beyond the material world, in something unseen,
Mm.
but profoundly real.
Okay. I like that. Unseen yet profoundly real. So how does that work? How is that different from, like we were saying, believing in a lucky charm?
Well, they say it all comes down to like what you're actually putting your faith in, right?
Right.
The lucky charm, it's this external thing.
Right.
You hope it'll bring good fortune.
Oh, I get it.
But
Yeah.
here, the source is talking about putting your faith in God,
Okay.
who, according to Christians, is the creator of the universe.
Right. The ultimate power.
Yeah. And also like the embodiment of love and goodness.
Oh, wow. So it's not just believing in something, it's about the qualities of that something, or in this case, someone.
Exactly. It's like way more relational.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes you think, right?
It does. And the source even brings in a quote from the Bible to back this up.
Oh, which one?
Hebrews 11:6, I believe. It says, without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's all about actively seeking, not just passively believing.
I see why they're calling this an authentic faith then.
Yeah.
It's like aligning your life with what you believe, not just like having a belief.
You got it. And this idea of active seeking, it's not just a Christian thing, right? We see it in other faiths and spiritual traditions too.
That's so true. Like
Yeah.
when you think about karma or dharma,
Exactly. Different cultures, different names, but that same idea of striving to live in a way that's consistent with like a higher power principle, you
Yeah.
know?
totally. And that kind of brings us to another key point that the source makes. Faith isn't just a feeling.
Oh,
It's a commitment.
interesting. Like making a choice.
Yeah. Like choosing to trust and then like living in a way that reflects that trust.
I can see that. So it's not just something you have or don't have.
Right. It's more dynamic, more like a journey.
A journey of deepening your trust and understanding. Yeah.
Exactly. And what I thought was really fascinating was how the source connected this to the concept of God's sacrifice.
Oh, that's a central idea in Christianity, right?
Right. So like for Christians, the belief is that God sent his son Jesus
Mhm.
to die for humanity's sins, right?
Yeah.
And that act of self-sacrifice is meant to be like the foundation of our faith.
It's like the ultimate demonstration of love, right?
Exactly. And it's like God is saying, look how much I love you, how much I was willing to give for you. Can you trust in that love?
It puts a whole new spin on things, doesn't it? It becomes much more personal.
I know. It's not just about the rules.
It's about a relationship.
Right. And that trust, that commitment, it leads to action.
Oh, okay.
The source is actually pretty firm on this. They even quote James 2.26.
Let's hear it.
It says, as the body without the soul is dead, so faith without works is dead.
So it's not enough to just believe, you have to live it.
Exactly. But what does that even look like, in real life?
Well, they emphasize it doesn't have to be these huge, dramatic gestures,
Yeah.
It's more about like weaving your faith into your daily life.
I like that.
Like those small, everyday things.
Little things, yeah.
Right, that might seem insignificant, but actually reflect your like deep-seated beliefs.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give us some examples. What kind of things are we talking about here?
So they talk about things like showing kindness, even when it's hard,
Yeah.
offering encouragement to someone who's struggling, or just living in a way that honors God's teachings.
Okay, but for someone who maybe isn't familiar with Christianity, what exactly do those teachings involve?
Oh, right. Good point. So in this context, we're talking about loving your neighbor as yourself,
Okay, yeah.
forgiving others,
Hmm.
pursuing justice, mercy,
Gotcha.
and treating everyone with respect and dignity.
I like that. It's very practical.
It is. And here's where it gets really powerful.
Okay.
Through those actions, through choosing kindness, The source is saying that others can actually see God working through you.
Oh, wow. So you become like a living example.
Exactly. It's not about preaching or arguing, it's about letting your actions do the talking.
That's powerful.
It is. And speaking of actions, the source emphasizes that love should be the driving force behind everything.
Okay, now we're getting to the heart of it. What does it mean to have a faith rooted in love, especially from a Christian perspective?
Okay, so the source talks about this having two dimensions.
Two dimensions. Okay.
First, it's about recognizing God's love for you.
Uh-huh.
Like understanding that you are loved unconditionally,
Mm-hmm.
no matter your flaws or mistakes.
Unconditional love. That's a big one.
And then it's about letting that love flow outward,
Okay.
expressing it through your actions towards others.
So it's like a cycle. Receive love, share love.
That's it. It's not just a feeling.
It's a motivator.
Yes. But how do we make sure our actions are actually motivated by love and not like a desire to impress people or something?
That's a good question.
Right. I think a lot of us struggle with that.
It sounds like the source might have some practical advice on this.
They do. They offer 4 practical steps for making your faith more visible in the world.
Perfect. Let's walk our listener through those.
Okay, so the first one is to believe in God's presence in your life.
Okay.
It's about like taking time each day to remind yourself that God is with you.
Even in the little things.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that awareness of the divine in your everyday life.
I love that idea because so often we feel alone, like we're facing our challenges all on our own.
Hmm.
But this is a reminder that we're connected to something bigger.
Yes. And it goes back to what we were talking about before about faith being a commitment.
Okay.
It's about actively nurturing your relationship with God.
So it's not just intellectual, it's experiential.
Exactly. You're feeling that connection. And that brings us to step 2, living out your faith daily.
Okay, so more on integrating faith into every aspect of life.
Right. It's about looking for opportunities to reflect God's love.
In everyday actions.
Yes. Rather than waiting for like the perfect moment.
I see. Okay, I need an example. What does that look like?
Sure. Imagine you're having a bad day, right?
Mhm.
Someone cuts you off in traffic.
Ugh, I hate when that happens.
Instead of getting angry, you choose to extend grace.
Wow, okay.
You remember that everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Or maybe you see someone asking for help.
Okay.
And instead of just walking by, you offer a kind word or even just like a small act of generosity.
It's about those small choices, right?
Yeah, those little things that actually reflect a conscious choice to live out your faith.
That's such a shift in thinking. It's not about being holy, it's about those little moments.
Exactly. Making your faith an active force, not just a belief you hold in your head.
I like that a lot.
And this leads us to step 3, showing your faith through service.
Okay, so now we're putting love into action.
You got it.
Yeah.
So the source gives examples like listening to a friend who needs to vent, volunteering your time, or just helping someone in need.
So service is an expression of your love for God, but also for humanity.
Yes, exactly. It's about recognizing everyone's worth and responding with compassion.
And this idea of service, it's not just a Christian thing either, right?
No, not at all. Think about it. It's in Buddhism, Sikhism, even secular humanism.
It's like a universal value
Right. It seems like a core part of what it means to be human.
to care for each other.
Yeah. And to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
There's something so fulfilling about that, isn't there? Stepping outside your own needs.
Absolutely. It's like exercising a muscle, The more you do it, the stronger it gets.
So even if someone feels like they don't have much to offer, they can still find ways to serve.
Oh, definitely. Even something as simple as holding a door open for someone.
Or giving a genuine compliment.
Exactly. Those little things can make a big difference.
This is making me feel so inspired. It's not about being perfect. It's about those small, intentional choices.
That's the beauty of it. And that brings us to the 4th and final step, which kind of ties everything together.
Okay, let's hear it.
Keeping love at the center.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we make sure love is the driving force, especially when we're talking about faith?
Well, the source reminds us that authentic faith is rooted in love,
Okay.
both receiving God's love and sharing that love with others.
Right, it's both sides.
Yeah, it's about understanding that you are loved unconditionally.
Despite our flaws.
Exactly. And then letting that love overflow into your actions.
That idea of unconditional love is so powerful.
It is. It's so easy to get caught up in self-judgment,
Totally. Feeling like we have to earn love or be good enough.
Right. But God's love It's freely given, not something we have to earn.
It's a gift.
Yes. And when you embrace that gift, it changes everything.
It changes how you see yourself, how you interact with the world.
Exactly. It's like that saying, hurt people, right?
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
If you're constantly feeling judged or inadequate, it's hard to offer love and compassion to others.
That's so true.
But if you're grounded in that feeling of being loved unconditionally, then it becomes easier to extend that grace to others.
So living an authentic life of faith, it's not about following rules or trying to be perfect.
Yeah, not at all.
It's about tapping into that love
Mhm.
and letting it guide you.
Beautifully said. That's what I hope our listeners take away from this deep dive.
It's such a powerful message no matter what your beliefs are, right?
Yeah.
It's about the power of love to transform us and the world around us.
Absolutely. It's a message of hope, of connection, and of just how much impact even the smallest acts of kindness can have.
Now, I'm curious, what are some other ways this idea of living out your faith might show up in someone's life? What other examples can you think of beyond what we've talked about already?
Oh, that's a great question. It could really be anything depending on the person. Their talents, their passions, their circumstances. Let's explore that a bit.
I'm all ears. Let's dive in.
So, where we left off was that first step, remembering God's presence.
Right.
That's like taking that pause
Mm-hmm.
to acknowledge you're not alone.
I find that so comforting, especially when things get crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you have this source of strength.
It is. It's like a shift in perspective.
Yeah. Instead of feeling overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
remember you're connected to something bigger.
Exactly. Like an anchor in the storm.
I like that. An anchor in the storm.
It is. So instead of just saying, I believe, this first step is about actually experiencing that belief.
Bringing it into your life.
Yes. And that flows right into step 2,
Which is?
living out your faith daily.
Okay, so we're back to integrating faith into everything.
Right. Finding those little opportunities to reflect God's love.
Not waiting for the big moments.
Exactly. It's the everyday stuff.
Okay, give me an example, though. I need to picture it.
Sure. So imagine you're having a rough day
Okay, been there.
and someone cuts you off in traffic.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. But instead of getting angry, you choose to, extend grace.
Oh,
You remember that everyone makes mistakes.
that's a tough one, but yeah, I see what you mean.
Or maybe you see someone who needs help, like asking for money or something.
Yeah.
And instead of just walking by, you offer a kind word or maybe even a little bit of help.
It's those small choices, those little moments.
Yes, that reflect a conscious choice, to live out your faith.
It's not about being perfect. It's about those little things.
You got it. And that brings us to step number 3,
Hit me.
showing your faith through service.
Okay, now we're talking. Putting that love into action.
Right. So the source is actually pretty open-ended here.
Oh, okay.
They suggest that any act of service can be powerful.
Like what kind of things?
Well, they give examples like volunteering at a soup kitchen, mentoring a young person,
Okay.
or even just being there for a friend who's going through a hard time.
It's not about getting credit for it.
Mhm.
Right. It's about actually wanting to help.
Exactly. It's about expressing your love for God and for people,
I like that. Recognizing everyone's worth.
and responding with compassion.
And again, this service idea, it's not just a Christian thing, is it?
Not at all. Think about it. Every major religion, every ethical system, they all emphasize helping others.
But part of being human.
Right. We're wired for it, to
Yeah.
care for each other, to give back.
There's something deeply fulfilling about that, you know?
Absolutely. It's like we get so caught up in our own lives, our own problems.
Mm.
And then when you step outside of that and focus on someone else's needs, it's amazing.
So even if you feel like you don't have much to offer, you can still serve.
Oh, definitely. Even the smallest act of kindness can make a difference.
Like what?
Holding the door open for someone, giving a genuine compliment.
It all adds up.
It really does. Okay, ready for the 4th step? This one kind of ties everything together.
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Keeping love at the center.
Love, huh? Okay, I feel like this is important, but how do we actually do that? Especially when it comes to faith.
Well, the source reminds us that authentic faith has its roots in love,
Mm-hmm.
both in receiving God's love for us
Huh.
and in sharing that love with others.
Right. Both sides of the coin.
Yeah, it's understanding that you're loved unconditionally.
Even with all our mess ups.
Exactly. And then letting that love kind of flow outward into your actions.
This unconditional love thing is so hard, though.
It is. It's so easy to get caught up in judging ourselves,
Totally. Like we have to earn it or something.
Right. But the source is saying God's love It's a gift.
We don't earn it.
Exactly. It's freely given.
Yep.
And when you really let that sink in, it changes how you see
How
everything.
you see yourself, how you treat others.
Yeah. Like, remember that saying, hurt people hurt people?
Oh, yeah, it's so true.
If you're always feeling judged or like you're not good enough, it's hard to be loving and compassionate. But when you're grounded in that feeling of being unconditionally loved, it's like you can finally let go of that stuff.
And extend grace to others.
Exactly.
So living an authentic life of faith, it's not about being perfect or following all the rules.
Yo.
It's about letting that love lead the way.
Beautifully said. That's the core message here.
And it's a message that speaks to everyone, I
I
think.
agree. It's about the power of love to transform us and the world.
So powerful. Now, I'm wondering, what are some other ways this whole living out your faith thing could show up in someone's life? What other examples come to mind?
Ooh, good question. It could really be anything. It all depends on the person, their passions, their talents, what they're going through in life. Let's brainstorm a little, see what we come up with.
Sounds good. I love getting specific with these things. Let's dive in. It really gets you thinking, all the different ways we can live out our faith.
It does. Like, it's not just about going to church or praying or whatever. It's about, like, how you treat people, how you approach life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your actions speak louder than words.
100%. Like, I know some people who they might not talk about their faith a lot, but the way they live their lives, it just shines through.
That's inspiring, Makes you want to step up your own game.
It totally does. And what's really interesting to me is how this whole idea of authentic faith, it goes beyond any specific religion.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's more about, like, a way of being,
Yeah, like a commitment to living out your values.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, like, are we hardwired for this? Is faith in some form just part of being human?
That's a deep question.
It is. I mean, philosophers and theologians have been debating that forever.
Probably will for a long time to come.
Right. But whatever the answer is, I think it's clear that these principles we've been talking about,
Like trust, love, compassion.
Yeah, all that stuff, it resonates with people everywhere.
It's like we all have this longing for something to believe in.
Something to give our lives meaning.
And this deep dive has given us some concrete ways to, like, tap into that,
I
right?
think so. It's not about being perfect or, like, reaching some crazy level of holiness.
It's about those small, everyday choices.
Yeah. Like the source said, what's one small action you can take this week?
To make your faith more visible.
However you define it,
Maybe it's calling a friend you haven't talked to in a while.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or volunteering at a local charity.
Helping out a neighbor.
Taking a moment to just, like, be grateful.
All those little things add up.
They really do. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
And intentionality, right? Like making that conscious effort.
To align your actions with your values.
Let your life speak for itself.
Well said. I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about. Big thanks to you, expert, for sharing your insights.
It's been my pleasure, truly.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us as we explored what it means to live an authentic life of faith.
It's been a great conversation.
It has. And remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
Keep seeking, keep questioning, keep growing.
So keep living authentically. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new and thought-provoking topic. Until then, take care.